Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem video. This is a postmortem of my Blitz chess game number 77, where my opponent played the bishop's opening. So let's check it out. E4, E5, and he plays bishop C4. So the bishop's opening, named after the bishop move there, obviously. And I play the most common move here, knight F6, just counterattacking the center pawn. And my opponent plays this interesting move, knight F3 here. So let's take a look at this. Now you see the move I played, bishop c5, not the most popular choice. This setup that white has played here has a name. It's actually called the Boden-Kieseritzky gambit. I wasn't aware of this. I looked it up after the game. I was curious about the bishop's opening and what you were supposed to play in this case. So what I did know is that if you play knight c6, which is the top move here, this just transposes into the two knights defense of the Italian game, and I don't play that. I prefer to play white in this position. So maybe I should try it sometime for practice, but that's not to my taste. Well, I just never played it. Can't say it's not to my taste, really. So the main move here is to accept the gambit, knight takes e4. I just wasn't sure if knight takes e4 was safe. But it looks like it's safe. It looks like you get an even game, so you're better off accepting the gambit, actually, than declining it. So you might as well take that pawn. It's not like you'll get an advantage. It looks like the game is about even, so that means white has compensation for the pawn. But this could be played. Knight c3 would be the next move. And then knight c6, defending the pawn, because this guy is under attack now. Are there other ideas? Knight to d6 is an interesting idea of the engine. Not listed. Oh, there it is. It's listed in the opening book. Let's check out this knight d6 idea, because that's a little bit of something. If you just play up the straight line of the gambit, your opponent probably knows more about it than you do. If you can find an unusual move like knight d6 to get you out of the play, a standard play of the gambit, then maybe that's good. The idea with knight d6, it blocks the d-pawn, which is a bit unfortunate, but it hits the bishop. So the bishop has to retreat. And you can play knight c6 now, or even e4. I think I wouldn't press my luck. I think I would play knight c6 here rather than pushing on with pawns, try and get some pieces out. So it looks like the bishop, the light squared bishop is locked in, but maybe you can fianchetto it here and develop this bishop here in castle and get a good game. It says white should try d4, e takes d4 in exchange. Then, yeah, bishop e7 and castle. So looks like you can get a game this way. So that takes us out of the opening book. Let's look at what was actually played. I played this move bishop c5, which is offering a counter gambit. And I just thought if he grabbed the pawn, I would castle and get some pressure along the e file. But it looks like this gambit is not a good gambit. He should take that pawn for sure and just be a pawn up. So I was thinking I would castle here. Says I could try d5 right away, but that just cements the pawn loss. But he could play d4, defending his knight and kicking my bishop. And my best move is bishop e7 there. Yeah, so he just holds onto the pawn, and there's no particular pressure along the e file. I'm just too slow because he has this move d4. So his gambit was good. My gambit was not. So backing up to this position, if you ever see this move knight f3 here in the bishop's game, it's a gambit. It's called the Boden-Kieseritzky gambit, and it's okay to take that pawn. And then you can try the knight d6 move if you want to confuse your opponent. Okay, I played bishop c5. He played queen e2, and we get into a game that's kind of even. And there is an interesting tactic in this game. Unfortunately, it won't be much of a surprise because the chess engine will show it, but I just wanted to have the engine on while I went through some of these complicated lines. And there's some more lines coming up, so let's just play through it. And you see the engine thinks I've got an even game. So both sides are making reasonable moves. And no particular advantage or disadvantage to either side until somewhere around here. It didn't particularly like this move d5. If you see, the evaluation starts swinging to white's favor here. But the move my opponent played, knight takes e5, is he's playing for the old center fork trick. And computer thinks he should just push ahead with d4 right away. So let's check this out. d4, bishop to d6. Oh, there's no other square for the bishop to go to. I suppose I could have tried taking the pawn. And then knight b to d2. Okay, just developing and getting a strong center. Looks good. I was wondering if there was some tactic where he can take the e-pawn and fork these two pieces, but it looks like with the bishop on d6, I have enough force to defend that pawn. Okay, so let's go back to the game. He played knight takes e5. And I didn't, if you listen to the audio of the actual game, I didn't notice what was going on here. But obviously, when I take it, he's going to fork these two pieces. And so you take back and get your pawn back, and then you give up a piece. So material comes out even. But now I was faced with a situation where this pawn is under attack, and this knight is under attack, rather. The knight on e5 is under attack, and the knight on f6 is pinned. So if I just move the knight away, he can play the move pawn to e5 and win a second piece. And so he'll be up material. So I had to find the right move. And there's only one move here, but eventually, when there's only one move, if you look long enough, you can usually find it. Knight f7 I played. And of course, that gets the knight out of there and it hits the bishop. So he can pin the knight, but I can take the bishop. And trying to counterattack the bishop just is not good here because he can take, I take, he takes, so it's two pieces for one. Okay, so knight f7, bishop takes f6, and we're back to an even game. So it all goes along just fine up until this point, when this move is a mistake. If you want to take a quiz here, cover up the Houdini display for a second and see if you can figure out what black's best move is here. And this is a really cute tactic, so if you haven't seen it, if I haven't given away the answer, why don't you pause the video, keep the Houdini display covered up, and see if you can figure out a nice tactic for black here. Okay, I'm going to give the answer away, so last chance, pause the video. The answer is rook to f4. New variations. You say that's crazy. In fact, I was talking about playing the move rook f4 during the game, but that was before he moved his queen out. So in this position, I wanted to play rook f4 to attack his d-pawn there and just get an active piece. He played queen g4, and now rook f4 here. I thought he couldn't play because his queen just takes it. But if his queen takes it, I have this move here, knight h3 check. So there's a pin from the queen on that pawn, so the knight is immune to being captured. It's attacking the king and the queen simultaneously. So anyway, the king has to move, and I can grab the queen, and I've just won a queen for a rook, so that would be a huge win. Of course, he doesn't have to take f4. Once you play a move like rook f4, your opponent usually figures it out and looks for another move, so queen g3. But this still gives me this rook takes d4 move that I wanted. So rook f4 would have been a very clever way to play this game. It's too bad I didn't spot that. So we back up this position. How can you spot a move like rook f4? Well, one thing you have to notice is there's an incipient pin. And I had noticed this because I'd been talking about playing knight takes h3 earlier, taking advantage of that pin. So with the knight out of the way and the queen out of the way, you notice there's a pin. And the other thing you have to notice is that this square and this square are the same color, and they are a candidate for a knight fork. That's a fork distance apart from this square to this square. They're the same color, and they're not one of these squares. This 3 squares apart like this, that's not, you can't fork that. But if it's not one of those, then you can usually fork it. If it's in the same neighborhood, and it's not that diagonal. So that's the thing to look for when you're looking for these clever tactics. So that means this square here, let's erase these other lines. This square here on f4 is actually a protected square because it's protected by the threat of that fork. So when you assess a position and you're trying to figure out what squares are safe and which ones aren't, that's a safe square for you to put your piece on. Okay, enough on that. I missed it. And rook f7 is... well, this is all slightly better for white now that I've missed that, because he can attack my knight, and it goes to a square where it, after trading queens, see, my queen was defending it on that square, but after I trade queens, I have to take back with a pawn. And then this other tactical sequence was kind of interesting. So here, it's just a slight advantage to white. It's not a whole pawn up. And this line it gives with rook f4 was kind of interesting. Now I figured I couldn't hold on to the pawn. That's why I didn't play rook f4. Because if he plays g3, hitting the rook, and I just try to keep holding onto the pawn by playing rook to g4, this is going to end up badly for that rook. He can play king g2 here, and this rook is going to get trapped. Rook f8, and then king h3. He's going to munch that rook with his king, and this rook has no squares to go to. So it's saying rook takes h4 check, just giving up the rook. So that's not the idea. After g3, the idea is to play rook f3 and give up that pawn. Okay, we give up the pawn, and then you can play rook to b3. Okay, you're attacking another pawn, but you're a pawn down, and he can defend that one. And then you go rook to b4. So that was kind of this neat circuitous route. You went to this square, and from there you went here, to here, to here. But you've got to a very active post, and now he's going to have trouble defending his pawns. What's the computer recommend here? Rook e3, giving up the d-pawn. If he tries to hold on to the d-pawn, with a move like rook d2, and just rook takes a4. You got your pawn back, and yep, things are looking pretty good. So an even game. I shouldn't say pretty good, but it was. So this move here, rook d8, which seems very logical, attacking this weak backward center pawn, is the one that really costs me the game. Maybe there's some chances later, but it starts to go downhill in the rook endgame here, and I play this part okay. Maybe I missed one more chance here. Yeah, taking on h4 first is more accurate than what I played. I played rook b4, and that just lets him get an extra pawn over here on the king side. See, I could have grabbed that pawn and then played rook to b4. And I was more worried about this pawn queening, but I have time, and I should pick up that pawn while I've got the time. So the way it played out, he just gobbled up my pawns, and I get this active pawn on the queen side, but all I can do is use it to decoy his rook for a little bit. And then here, I made mention of this during the video, it's slightly more accurate to play king e6 than rook e6, but you can see with an advantage of 1.6, this is all winning for white at this point. So pretty much game over. I play a few more moves trying to get something going, looking for any kind of shot, but he plays all this very accurately, and at this point, well, I run out of checks, basically. He hides behind the rook and then takes the pawn, and he's clearly winning. So I resigned finally, and good game. I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you have any comments on this, leave them in the section below, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.